Welcome to the Girl at a Bar podcast. I'm Tracy Mulholland. My guests went out to a bar alone, had to stay for 90 minutes minimum, and couldn't look at their phone. We talk about their night and how they can use this experience to get out of their comfort zone in other ways.
I realized before I started that my plant was kind of dying, so I did a little grooming of my plant.
Your plant looks great.
Well, thanks. It was not looking great 2 minutes ago, but now it's looking better.
You're a plant whisperer.
I am the opposite of that, Abby, but thank you. So I'm talking to my friend Abby, and she's been a close friend for a decade and a half, I think, at this point.
Long time.
You play one of my friends in the show, and also your home was one of the big set pieces. Your actual Abby's home is where I live, my character Gabby, in the garage. So yeah, you've had a huge role in Girl at a Bar.
I feel like I've been a part of this journey with you for years, and it's so nice to that you have the series out and now you're doing the podcast and people can finally see it.
Yeah.
Hear it. Right.
I know.
Yeah.
You were, when I was doing the blog, which was so long ago, we started becoming friends.
Crazy.
So why did you also want to you weren't required to, but why did you also want to go out and do a bar by yourself?
I do think it's like an out of body, not comfortable experience, especially maybe for a woman to be out at a bar by herself without having this as with your teddy bear, you know?
I like that analogy.
So it's easy to go anywhere on the phone because you can hide.
Mm-hmm.
People are so mean on the internet. I mean, you can just hide behind a device, and without it, you're kind of vulnerable.
Did you feel vulnerable when you went out?
Well, so I guess we'll go into this, but I was at an airport bar.
Yeah. So Abby, you had planned, well, you were thinking about where to go and how to get the kids taken care of. And I volunteered to come babysit. And then you ended up being at the airport and it happened. So tell me all about it.
So I was at the airport. I didn't think I was going to be at the airport very long. And then my flight kept getting delayed. And I was at a bar and I was like, this is my girl at a bar moment. So I also was scared to death that I was going to not have a phone to be in contact with people and it was going to die. So I was like, I'm going to put away my phone and just kind of see what happens. So I was at an airport bar in Medford, Oregon.
Right. Because you were there promoting your film Bad Fish. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. We had a theatrical release. So we did a small press tour in Northern California and in Oregon. And so I found myself stuck.
What happened? Was it weather or mechanical or
who knows? I never found out. They canceled the flight. I ended up buying myself a ticket on a United flight hours later. So
wow,
kind of a funny experience. And it's, being at bars, especially airport bars, which by the way are kind of my favorite places.
Yeah. I don't think I've spent much time. What do you love about them?
Oh my God. I love drinking in an airport bar. They're going somewhere. They're not trying to pick you up. It's a different vibe. Everyone is there because they're getting ready to go to a different destination. So it's kind of interesting being at an airport bar.
That is interesting compared to if you're in LA going out of town. Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel more comfortable at an airport bar. I think people are really chatty and a lot of people are there alone. So maybe it's cheating a little bit.
No, it's not cheating at all. The rules were 90 minutes and no phone. And that's really it. So I love that you came in with this random experience that I wasn't expecting, especially for our first one out of the gate.
But it's funny, you kind of make a presumption about, I guess you do it with all people about what this person is doing and where they're going and what they do. And this guy that I ended up talking to a lot, I thought for sure he was a musician. I was like, this guy all dressed in black, bald, on his computer. I just pegged him for a musician. And he was an English professor. So
So the facts were all black and bald, and then that made you think musician? That's so
He just
interesting.
had this like music vibe to him. He had like
Mhm.
big, thick black glasses. He had tattoos. Like he just seemed like an old musician. I don't know why. He wasn't. He wasn't.
He seems like a cool teacher.
Yeah. He was very, very nice to talk to. I talked to this other couple, and they were waiting for the flight as well. He did something in tech. He was like real techie guy, and he was, giving us all updates.
Paint the scene for me. Were you sitting at a round bar? How many seats long was it? And then how did conversations start with these people?
So it was a long bar, and then there was like high top bar tables behind me. Very small bar. So, and it was also really early in the morning. It was like 9 o'clock in the morning.
I love this experience.
So it was like, have a drink. And everyone's kind of having a drink before. And then pretty early on, our flight got delayed. So we all kind of were just like, are you on this flight? Are you trying to get back to LA? Are you trying to get back to LA? So there was kind of a camaraderie, like about 20 minutes in.
Oh, so they were all people on the same flight as you.
Most of them. There were
Okay.
other people in and out. Like, I mean, I was there for hours.
How many hours?
I think I was there for 9 hours.
Wow.
It was a very long day.
So this period of time that you did the 90 minutes without the phone,
Yes.
was that right at 9 a.m. or was that a little bit later?
It was a little bit later when I realized that our flight was not, I was like, I really literally had the thought, I was like, this is my girl in a bar moment. And I had all these people who were kind of like checking the flight. I did end up using my phone. I want to say it was about 3 hours later where I was like, I think this flight's not going.
Yeah.
So I went down I got out of the airport. I had to go to United and buy a ticket.
Wow.
Because-
United saved the day, but doesn't usually. But yeah.
No, exactly. So, but it was the only other option. And I think that flight was at, I didn't end up getting home until 9 o'clock, and it's an hour flight.
Wow.
So,
And
yeah.
what was the vibe of this town and this airport? Would you say I'm definitely in an airport that's tiny in Oregon?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. It was tiny. A
Mhm.
tiny little airport, but everyone was going to LA. So that was kind of cool. You know what's funny? I ran into somebody that I know.
Oh, that
And
had
I
nothing
don't
to
know
do.
how I know him. He came up to me and he was like, Abby? And this was so random. In Oregon. No, I know him, but I don't know how I know him. Anyway, I don't know how I know him. I kind of recognized him.
And he didn't have anything to do with your film or the promotion
Nothing.
that you were on?
Nothing.
Okay.
I have no idea but he was like, I gotta go catch a flight. So it was that quick.
That's so random.
It was very random.
I feel like that happened to me a lot on the blog and going out where I would run into people, but
Yeah.
that's obviously more common because I was going out in LA. But I do think that sometimes with the girl at a bar vibes, somehow the universe or whatever you want to call it brings people into alignment with you. It's very odd, but I definitely see it happening.
Tracy, you are one with the universe. I feel like that's pretty apparent.
I think I'm universe adjacent in that I will think about people and then I won't directly focus on thinking about running into them, but maybe they'll pop up in a dream or something. And then a couple days later, or maybe a week later, I'll run into them. So I don't think I'm actively trying to channel it, but I do have experiences where I've thought about them and then I run into them a few days later.
Yeah, no, you have those all the time, I feel like.
Not as much as I've in the last few years, though. I think as I've gotten maybe a little older, or maybe with the pandemic, not going out as much, my powers are diminishing. Maybe, yeah, the adjacentness is even less. Now it's like I don't know, what's less than adjacent?
Like parallel? Is that?
I think that's the same.
That's the
Anyway, so what did you end up drinking?
Bloody Mary, because it was morning.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, I'm here. I'm gonna have a gin and tonic. So
Oh,
I had a gin and tonic or two.
you went for it.
So
You weren't going anywhere. You didn't have to drive.
exactly.
Yeah.
I'm not flying the plane.
Yeah.
I
So are you going to stay in touch with any of these people, do you think?
had an awkward moment at the airport in Burbank with the professor
Okay.
because he also, I guess, jumped on this United flight. And so I saw him at the Uber stand and I don't know, I felt like I went to hug him and it was just like, it was very awkward. I was like, oh, that was an awkward bye. Like I should have just been like, bye. But I felt like we like not lived through, that's dramatic. We just had this like experience together.
It does sound like you had an experience being stuck in an airport for 9 hours and talking to anybody for sure. How did it feel though being out of your normal life for even the 90 minutes with
Yeah.
the girl to bar parameters, but obviously you did 9 hours of it. But like you got that space to be away from the kids, out of the house, which is kind of the idea. How did that feel?
That felt great. I mean, the only pressure I felt is I'd set up a babysitter for that day and until noon.
Just to know.
So, because I was like, I'll be home at 11. That was the pressure. And it was like, okay, I guess I'll have to figure this out. Anyway, she stayed till 4, then I had another babysitter tap in until
Oh, wow. Okay.
so that was the only pressure, but I wasn't really thinking about that at that moment.
You were in the moment.
I was in the moment. Yeah. I was
I
like,
can
this is
see that.
fine. It'll be fine.
Did you learn anything random? Did the teacher or the tech person teach you something about the world that you might not have known?
I don't think there was any like, I just think it was like small talk banter.
And you filmed there, correct? That was where you filmed in
We
Medford?
filmed in Brookings, Oregon.
Got it. Okay.
So yeah.
Well, do you know where that is going to be, that Bad Fish, for people to watch it?
Bad Fish will be on all the streaming, like, you know.
And then what about trying your short film? So Abby did this amazing short film about fertility struggles, and I was so lucky to be
Tracy
a
was
part
in
of
it.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's been doing festivals and doing so well. So can we see that anytime soon?
I would love to make it available somewhere just because I think it's such an important topic and for people to not feel so alone when they're going through fertility issues.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, the music rights we only bought so much.
For festivals.
So, yeah. So I would have to just figure out what to do with the music, which is a whole other level that I wasn't thinking about when it was my first film that I wrote and produced. So,
And started.
So
Yeah.
I learned a lot from it, and I will probably never use music that's not on like some sort of public.
There's also libraries that we used APM Music Library, and then you can pay for certain rights with that.
There's
From
so much music out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So but our music ended up being such a character in the film that it's so heartbreaking to think about changing it.
You'll find something. You'll find something that can match the tone, I believe. But yes, well, everyone keep an eye on that. Abby's for that. So I want to talk about your character in Girl at a Bar briefly. You're one of my friends. And how important was it to you to have representation of chronic invisible illness on screen?
I mean, I think it's pretty important. I think what I struggled with a lot when I was real sick was.
What did you struggle with when you were younger?
So when I was younger, I was playing soccer and I got kicked, and I had what they thought was a seizure. And then I started having bad spasms in my leg, and my leg turned colors, and it was really painful to touch. So for weeks and weeks, we just went to different doctors, and they're like, it's not broken. This was in the 90s. So finally, I got a diagnosis of what it was. It was called reflexive sympathetic dystrophy back then. So it was called RSD. And then I went to Boston Children's Hospital. I was there. I went 3 times. So basically, I struggled with it for about 9 years, 10 years, but just trying to find some sort of pain management and figuring out what to do. No one really did a whole lot of research about it back then.
For sure.
At one point, one doctor told my parents that they wanted to amputate my leg. So I'm just so grateful that they did not do that. We did a lot of nerve blocks. They went in and had to lengthen a bunch of like muscles or stuff in my leg because my leg had atrophied so badly.
You ended up with somebody who did magnetic treatments at the end.
He did magnetic treatments. He did I was on a lot of heavy pain medicine. So it was basically just like keeping the pain down. I had a morphine pump in my back. I went through a pretty extreme withdrawal of morphine because my body just rejected the pump at one point. It just kept getting, so the pump would explode in my back, and it was,
oh my gosh,
it was pretty gnarly. So then they flew me up to Boston Children's to kind of go through a detox as well. So we did find a doctor in Corpus Christi, Texas, who had studied RSD. It's just a chronic pain disease. It's hard for people to understand, like, good days and bad days. You know, it's hard for people to like understand, oh, it's not cancer.
Sort of knowing that is more understandable for society and people. And if you haven't been through an invisible, not even invisible in your case, but a chronic condition, that it is very hard to explain those ups and downs and the day to day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It was just like, why one day are you feeling not fine, but like, can you get out of bed? And then the next day you can't.
Mm-hmm.
So
totally. And the littlest thing, especially with Lyme and the fatigue from that, would be so minute. I would maybe walk 10 more minutes on my walk than I had projected. And that was enough to tip me over so that I couldn't do anything the next day.
Yeah. I mean, these diseases, I think now people are talking about it, which, I mean, my husband watched that documentary called Who Will Take Care of Maya?
Oh, I'm not familiar with it.
On Netflix. I cannot watch it. He said, please don't watch it. It sounds like a lot of what happened to my family. We were fortunate where like CPS wasn't involved, but I know there was like talk because I was little, I was 11. Anyway, it's a horrifying documentary about this child with RSD.
Oh, wow. Which is now, by the way, for people listening, more commonly referred to as CRIPS. It's regional pain syndrome.
Yes, there it is.
We have some amazing documentaries in the Lyme community, The Quiet Epidemic, that came out recently, which I highly recommend people watch. With your experience, obviously you and I bonded about that when we first became friends, but then moving into With Girl at a Bar and that representation, I was just really happy to have you involved, and other actors as well who had Lyme and other chronic conditions. That was really important to me, to populate the cast as much as possible with people who had experience not being able-bodied and representing that on the screen.
Yeah, I think I think it's important. And you want to be a part of something that you know. I mean, as an artist, like, this is what we know. Great right, to have a platform to tell that story.
Yes, I'm very grateful that we were able to tell it with the grant that this was from Bay Area Lyme Foundation, and to put it on and get some people to see it at festivals, and hopefully more people will see it online too now.
Yes.
Fingers crossed. What do you do when you come back from a night out? Not necessarily a bar, but just in general, do you have specific routines or rituals?
A night out, pop the Advil. I don't really go out much anymore. So, if it's late, I just go to bed.
Straight to bed. Do you check in on the kids to see if they're sleeping?
Oh, girl, monitors. And they also sleep in my bed. So
I take that
I know if they're sleeping or not.
Because they're right next to you.
They're right there.
Yeah, fair enough. I do think a lot of us who are doing this that are my friends don't go out as much as we did maybe. And that was sort of the impetus for wanting to push some people out to see what would happen and what they would gain from having this space to be out alone. And maybe even it's just a break. Maybe it's just a time to breathe and meditate in a way, or just enjoy company that you wouldn't normally have come across, which it sounds like happened to you.
And I also think there is something about going out by yourself. And once you do it, it's like going to the movies by yourself. It's like, it's not that big of a deal. Like, why did we make it such a big deal? It's empowering almost, like you can do that. You can go to the movies by yourself. You can go to dinner by yourself. You can go to the bar by yourself.
For sure. I agree. Did anyone tell you can't?
No, but I have always, I think in my 20s, even in my 30s, I felt like, I don't want to do that. That seems a little scary. In all honesty, what do you want to do? Like, besides be really self-conscious.
But you pushed through it.
Yeah.
There was great things on the other side.
Okay, it would be interesting, though, to have somebody younger, like somebody in their 20s, go out and not have their phone.
That is going to happen, upcoming.
Oh,
so the first couple of people are people more involved with the show. And then moving forward, I've got a myriad of guests. So there's lots of different experiences ahead.
Well, I'm excited to hear.
Yeah, we've recorded a few so far, and it's been really interesting, the takeaways. So if you were to have a takeaway about how to get out of your comfort zone in another way currently in your life, what would that be?
How to get out of my comfort zone? I think you just do.
Is there something currently that you're feeling you're maybe stuck in a zone right now and you want to branch out?
I think I always kind of like tiptoe with fear of a lot of things, like fear of not being a good parent, or not being a good actor, or not being enough for anyone, or leaving the house, or something could happen, or going to the grocery store, all these things. So I just like pushing it all away and just being, and it's okay to just go do. I don't know if that makes any sense, but
totally does. Be and do instead of living more in the fear.
Like, there's always an excuse to not do something. So just do it.
Like the slogan says.
Like Nike.
Not sponsored. We are not sponsored by them.
But if you wanted to.
We are looking for sponsors. I don't know if Nike's in line with the bars and chronic illness, but maybe. We'll see.
I mean, I feel like Nike's open to a lot of things.
Well, anything else you want to plug or say before we sign off on the very first Girl at a Bar? The torch has been passed to Abby. You're passing it on. Coster, I believe, is going to be the next episode, and she plays your friend in the show too. So,
yes, she's lovely. Well, I'm excited that this is finally happening. I'm so happy to be involved. So thank you.
Well, it's my pleasure as always, and I'll see you soon.
Yes.
And thanks again for doing it, for being game.
Yeah, girl. Thank you.
Be and do. I love it.
Thanks for joining us for this episode. Be sure to subscribe to the Girl at a Bar channel on YouTube to see video episodes of the podcast and watch the Girl at a Bar scripted series. Thanks to Andrew Hollander for producing the song, Something I Can't Rearrange. You can check out the full version on all music platforms. Please visit girlatabar.com and bayarealyme.org for resources on Lyme disease.